A lone skyscraper cut through the clouds, glowing under the silver moonlight. At its peak, a heroine descended with fire in her voice, declaring their endless conflict was finally coming to an end. Below, a man in a top hat simply smirked, adjusting his tie with that irritating air of superiority. His words, half compliment, half insult, only fueled Stardust's fury. But instead of rising to the challenge, he calmly announced their rivalry was over. To him, she had become too predictable. Stardust froze, caught off guard by his sudden declaration. Purple energy wrapped around his shoes as he declared this would be their final meeting. In the next instant, his body unraveled into digital fragments, fading from her reach. A rooftop explosion hurled Stardust skyward, her desperate hand stretching toward him as he disappeared with cold detachment. The story then rewound to years earlier. A cloaked figure perched on a skyscraper's edge, gazing down at the city lights of Seoul. This was Kim Dane, 22 years old, quietly acknowledging his strange new reality. His reflection was shattered when a violent blast echoed from the streets below. There, a B-ranked villain was overwhelming two struggling heroes. Holding a familiar mask, Dane realized the truth. He had been reborn inside his favorite comic, Stardust, and in this world of constant battles between villains and heroes, he decided to take the role of a villain himself, but with a hidden purpose. Purple light flared, teleporting him across rooftops. His unseen partner, Seo Yoon, questioned his sudden movements, but he dismissed her worries with calm precision. With knowledge of the story's future, his plan was simple: eliminate dangerous villains early and protect Stardust from the pain that awaited her. His first target was an A-rank villain named Rhino. A pistol appeared beside his head in a flash of teleportation, followed by a chilling demonstration of psychokinesis. With a silent judgment, Egoistic ended the threat before it could grow. Among the wreckage, he found blueprints for future destruction, the proof that Rhino was destined to become a terrifying S-rank villain. By striking now, he had changed the future. SEO warned him the authorities were closing in, and, with casual timing, reminded him to bring back an ice cream bar. Before leaving, Egoistic scrawled a cryptic message across a window in crimson evidence. Moments later, authorities discovered Rhino's downfall, whispering about a serial villain hunter. Stardust herself clenched her fists in fury, vowing to catch the mysterious culprit. News spread fast, but to Egoistic's horror, the public wasn't afraid. They admired him. Shaking his monitor in panic, he cried that being mistaken for a hero ruined everything. Seo, tired but calmly eating her ice cream, only raised an eyebrow at his over-the-top reaction. Determined to correct the misunderstanding, Egoistic promised to prove himself an undeniable villain. He chose his next stage carefully, two landmark towers filled with civilians. His live broadcast hijacked every screen in the city, his masked face towering over the skyline. With a sinister smile, he announced bombs planted in both buildings. Panic erupted as trapped crowds scrambled for escape. Then he called out the city's golden hero by name, Stardust, challenging her to stop him. Just as he expected, she came blazing through the sky. Stardust landed with such force that the ground cracked, her aura radiating power. Egoistic froze, momentarily forgetting his role as villain. Seeing his idol in person left him blushing, starstruck, and fumbling to recover his composure. Straightening his back, he forced a confident grin. At last, the heroine and the villain stood face to face, their rooftop battle about to begin. The story rewinds, dropping us into a narrow, shadowed alley where a young man staggers forward, clutching the wall for support. His breaths come shallow, his body aching from a sudden and unfamiliar arrival. Slumping against the cold brick, he wishes for nothing more than to wake up back in his own world. A burst of light cuts through his despair. Blinking upward, he sees it. A towering holographic billboard flashing the radiant figure of Stardust. For a moment, he's frozen. Then disbelief ripples across his face, followed by the heat of a blush. The truth settles in with staggering clarity. This isn't a dream. He's inside her world. At first, the idea feels simple. If becoming a hero is what it takes to stand by her side, maybe that's his path. But then he remembers what he knows, her tragic future, the pain she'll endure. Heroes can't stop what's coming. To save her, he'll become a villain. Back in the present, Stardust's glare could pierce steel. Egoistic meets her fury with calm composure. As she braces to charge, he raises a detonator. The cameras hovering around capture every moment, freezing her mid-step. His smile sharpens, daring her to test his resolve. The tail flickers backward again, this time to a younger Kim Dane, 15 years old, laughing at a goofy superhero show while tossing popcorn into his mouth. On screen, a ridiculous villain cackled with wild energy, and young Dane scoffed at the over-the-top theatrics. Ironically, years later, Egoistic would embody that same manic flair he once ridiculed. Now, Stardust fumes as his antics play out across live broadcasts. Egoistic gestures grandly toward a screen showing terrified civilians, pointing to his second target. With a tip of his hat, he greets her, declaring the stage set for their duel. Stardust demands the release of the hostages, her voice sharp with authority. Egoistic agrees far too easily, announcing he'll unlock the elevators. Her eyes narrow. She senses the trap. And sure enough, as soon as a civilian rushes for escape, his face appears on a screen with a cruel twist. Saving one building means dooming the other. The countdown begins. 30 minutes until both towers fall, no matter what. Panic spreads through the trapped crowds as harsh choices ignite bitter arguments. Some cry out to act, others recoil at the thought of sacrificing strangers. Stardust clenches her jaw, appalled by his game. Egoistic, however, speaks with unnerving calm. He dissects her ideals with surprising precision, even offering compliments that leave her momentarily baffled. To him, her helplessness isn't weakness, it's the ultimate spectacle. And with a grin, he presents her with a challenge. If she can inspire the hostages to endure for 30 minutes, he promises the bombs will be disarmed. She doesn't believe him. How could she? Yet he reminds her coldly, this is her only chance. With a snap of his fingers, the stage shifts. Drones and cameras whir to life, amplifying her voice across the entire city. In seconds, her image dominates every screen, every billboard. Citizens look up in awe as Stardust prepares to speak. From a distant vantage point, Egoistic watched, quietly satisfied. Everything was unfolding exactly as he had envisioned. His role was simple, to play the villain, create the crisis, and set the stage for the hero. Stardust only needed to shine before the cameras, becoming the beacon of hope he wanted her to be. He dedicated the entire spectacle to her alone, a performance built on chaos, designed for her light. Inside the tower, Stardust's voice cut through the fear. She urged the hostages to stand tall, to resist despair, to prove their strength against evil. Her words carried weight, and soon the trembling civilians steadied themselves, choosing hope over panic. Egoistic's lips curved into a faint smile, exactly as planned. But then the timer glitched. The numbers dropped, flashing down to the final 5 seconds. Faces went pale. Mothers clutched children. Couples clung to each other, bracing for the worst. 0. The hostages waited for the end, but nothing came. The drones powered down, harmless. Not one person had chosen to sacrifice the others. Egoistic, however, clutched his head in disbelief. His carefully crafted plan to reveal the selfishness of humanity had collapsed under the weight of their unity. Stardust seized the moment, declaring that this outcome proved the strength of human goodness. Her faith had been justified. Egoistic froze, then laughed. Loud, surprised, almost delighted. As she charged, he vanished in a flash of purple energy, promising their next meeting would be different. To the crowd below, Stardust emerged victorious. Her name echoed through the city, her triumph undisputed. Egoistic, meanwhile, reappeared in an empty corridor and collapsed face first onto the floor. His dramatic escape ended with a graceless thud, his body trembling from the cost of teleportation. The farther he traveled, the worse the toll, and now his cool villain persona was reduced to painful groans. Seo found him sprawled out, unimpressed. She mocked his choice of headwear, calling his villain identity lame, while he weakly begged for a glass of water. Without sympathy, she told him to get it himself. When she finally did help, she poured the water directly onto his face, leaving him sputtering on the floor. Elsewhere, the nation celebrated. News outlets praised Stardust's flawless rescue. 0 casualties, complete victory. Yet behind the celebration, the Korean Hero Association convened. Inside their headquarters, reports and headlines plastered the screens, all bearing the same name, Egoistic. A briefing commenced, led by President Park Janho himself. He dismissed the history lesson and demanded new findings. The bombs had been custom-built, strong enough to level the observatory. His broadcasts? Impossible to hijack without expert help. Egoistic wasn't working alone. Then came the most disturbing discovery, his fixation on Stardust. Evidence showed his repeated focus on her, messages left behind, her name spoken during his live broadcast. All signs pointed to a dangerous obsession. The president turned to Stardust, asking for her judgment. She sat quietly, gloved hand pressed against the table, considering her words. Finally, her voice rang out cold and steady. Her verdict? Egoistic was no showman. He was manipulative, obsessive, and without question, an undeniable villain. 2 days later, Kim Dane was still paying the price for his reckless teleport. He lay sprawled across his bed, groaning like someone who had just lost a fight with life itself. When he finally mustered the strength to stand, the first thing he did was stumble toward the fridge, desperate for a drink. But the moment he chugged straight from the bottle, a sharp voice cut through the room. Startled, he spat his drink out in a messy spray, only to find Seo standing there, arms folded, staring at him like he'd just committed a crime against manners. Inside, Kim Dane grumbled. SEO wasn't just a genius, she was the genius, a legendary hacker who, in the original story, was destined to become a terrifying S-rank villain. But instead of following that path, here she was, glaring at him in her underground base, which he technically was freeloading off of. She repeated her demand. Use a cup like a civilized person. Kim Dane gave in with a shrug, casually patting her head on his way past. That moment ended fast. She suddenly announced an urgent situation and, with surprising strength, dragged Kim Dane across the room like he was nothing more than luggage. In the control room, Dane brought up the name of a fan he'd mentioned before, Lee Subin. Seo tapped the monitor, already tracking her, but her update left him rattled. A group of egoistic copycats were holding hostages in Incheon, and right there on the screen was Subin, caught in the middle of the crisis. But Seo dropped a harsher truth. Subin wasn't a hostage. She was among the armed terrorists. The reports flooding in were grim. Casualties, hundreds of hostages, and a chaotic standoff. Dane's lighthearted air vanished. He clenched his fist and turned to Seo, asking her to say their one unbreakable rule. Together, they recalled it in silence. Never harm innocent civilians. His expression hardened. Whatever it took, they had to put an end to this. Meanwhile, Stardust arrived above the burning building. Smoke and screams rose from below as she hovered, asking for clearance to engage. Her superiors authorized lethal force if negotiations failed. But before she could act, a chilling report came in. Egoistic himself was involved. Her mind spun. Villains used to be simple, powers against powers. But Egoistic thrived on mind games and public spectacle. And now, someone was copying him. She clenched her jaw in frustration, only to hear the situation grow worse. Inside, the imposters froze when a new figure appeared. Their eyes widened as the real Egoistic revealed himself. Convinced their idol had come to lead them, they erupted in cheers. But Egoistic himself looked unimpressed, his irritation plain from the toll of long-distance teleportation. Without entertaining their delusions, he calmly scanned the room, eyes locking on the terrorist gripping the detonator. In a flash, he crossed the distance, disarming the threat with terrifying precision. The room went dead silent. The imposters realized far too late this man wasn't their savior. He was their executioner. Weapons floated into the air around him, guided by his psychokinesis. Dozens of barrels aimed at the trembling copycats as Egoistic smirked, dismissing them with cold disdain. Outside, Stardust surged forward, bracing for a fight as the building shook with echoes of violence. Inside, Lee Subin stared into the cold steel of a hovering gun. SEO's voice crackled in Dane's ear, explaining Subin hadn't joined willingly. She'd been dragged into this. The terrified girl broke down, begging for her life. Under his steady gaze, Subin confessed her guilt in front of the stunned hostages. Egoistic teased her with a glowing weapon, telling her to stop crying before turning to the cameras. He bowed deeply, taking full responsibility for the disaster his name had inspired. He even promised to compensate the victims' families, though inwardly, he was already panicking about how Seo would handle the financial mess. "Wrap it up," Seo urged tiredly over the comms, "and bring her back." With no time to waste, Egoistic grabbed the trembling Subin and prepared for a rough teleport. Pain shot through him as the jump tore at his body, but he gritted his teeth. Just as Egoistic prepared to leave, the wall behind him erupted in a violent burst of light and debris. Stardust crashed through the wreckage, her entrance as overwhelming as it was dramatic. Caught completely off guard, Egoistic froze. His favorite hero had finally arrived. But before the confrontation could escalate, the scene shifted away, carrying us to the quiet grounds of a university campus. News reports flashed across screens, confirming the unbelievable. Egoistic had kept his word. Against all odds, he really had paid compensation to every victim of the hostage crisis. In a sunlit room, the hero behind the mask, Shin Haru, sat scrolling through her phone. Out of costume, she looked like any other student. But the furrow in her brow told another story. A flashback hit. Stardust lunged for Egoistic, hand stretching out to finally end the chase. But just as her fingers brushed the air around him, his legs buckled under the strain of teleportation. He collapsed, slipping from her grasp. She soared past, teeth clenched in pure frustration, as he vanished at the last possible second. Later, Shin Haru sat in a cafe, textbooks spread before her. Her senior, Kim Chae-yoon, dropped a drink on the table and asked if schoolwork was the problem. Haru denied it, trying to look focused, though her mind was clearly elsewhere. A small note explained the trick she used to hide her identity, a simple digital filter masking her features. But even in disguise, her natural charisma turned heads wherever she went. The truth was written plainly in her notebook, page after page scribbled with one name: Egoistic. She couldn't understand him. If he truly believed people were selfish, why save the hostages? Why take responsibility? Her brooding was cut short when Chae-yoon teased her for looking so serious. Haru flushed red as her friend cheerfully suggested ditching work for her favorite treat, mango dessert. At the word mango, Haru's entire demeanor shifted, her eyes sparkling with excitement. But her joy crumbled almost instantly as the memory of Egoistic's laughter intruded again. Chae-eun watched with growing concern. Not even dessert could lift Haru from this spiral. Haru's fist clenched tightly around her pen, anger bubbling at how much space Egoistic occupied in her thoughts. She vowed again to capture him, to end this obsession once and for all. Chae-eun, unfazed, simply slid a spoonful of mango dessert toward her pouting friend, finding her determination oddly adorable. The scene then shifted to a seemingly ordinary home in Seoul. A woman approached the gate, but instead of the front door, she slipped into a hidden passage. With a hiss, a high-tech door revealed itself, leading to a secret elevator plunging deep into the earth. Inside, Lee Subin keyed in the code and descended to the underground base of Egoistic. Down below, Kim Dane lounged inside a recovery pod while Seo read beside him, clearly more invested in her book than his theatrics. Teleporting with another person had taken a brutal toll on him, and he loudly complained about the pain, until Seo cut him off, telling him to stop whining. Dane still gave the pod 2 thumbs up, praising it as the best invention ever, earning only a deadpan look from his partner. When Subin arrived with groceries, things got stranger. She shyly explained the fridge was empty and nervously offered snacks. Dane's mind spun. How was a wanted criminal casually shopping for them? Her explanation? She'd hidden behind her bangs as a disguise. Before he could question further, Seo bolted up, gleefully demanding ice cream from the grocery bags. Dane stared in disbelief, wondering if they had recruited Subin just to run errands. When he pressed the issue of why Subin was even here, Seo calmly answered, she needed her. Dane objected, worried Subin might betray them, but Seo was firm. She explained Subin had been dragged unwillingly into the hostage incident. As Dane confirmed Subin's identity, she froze in shock. Seo, still enjoying her ice cream, casually revealed more. Subin's parents had once been researchers for the infamous Han Yoon group. The words hit like a thunderclap. Subin trembled, unable to believe her secret was already uncovered. Seo explained it wasn't difficult. Subin had left digital traces, small posts hinting at her vow for revenge. Subin's lips parted in silence as the genius calmly continued. She too had her sights set on Han Yoon. The air grew heavy as Seo extended her hand. Join me. Together, we'll make Han Yoon pay. Kim Dane studied the scene quietly, his expression hardening as realization sank in. Subin wasn't just another recruit. She was a victim of the same shadowy Han Yoon group that had scarred Seo's life. He thought back to the day he recruited Seo, offering her revenge and unknowingly pulling her away from the villainous fate she once had in the original story. But as he considered Subin, he dismissed her as a side character, someone without real weight in the grand scheme. That thought shattered when he looked up and nearly dropped his drink. Seo and Subin were clinging to each other on the floor, crying in each other's arms like long-lost sisters. Utterly baffled, Dane blinked, his mind scrambling to process this sudden burst of emotional bonding. His tough, sharp-tongued partner was falling apart in front of him, and he had no idea how to react. With a sigh, he quietly slipped back into his recovery pod, deciding this was one battlefield he didn't need to be part of. The focus shifted to a busy restaurant, where the atmosphere grew tense. A woman trembled, pleading with her purple-haired companion to leave her alone. Annoyed, he hissed at her to stop causing a scene. A nearby police officer stepped in, demanding he comply. The man brushed him off with arrogant disdain, but when the officer grabbed his arm, a surge of red light flared. In the blink of an eye, the officer was no longer inside the restaurant. He was on top of a skyscraper, staring at the dizzying drop below. Terror filled his face as the purple-haired man smirked and gave him a casual kick, sending him plummeting into open air. The villain revealed himself, Hak Cheol, an A-rank teleporter with a reputation as dangerous as his power. A flash of the original timeline followed, showing a grim future. Stardust overwhelmed by monstrous dragons. SEO reborn as the dreaded S-rank villain, the White Witch. But the present cut back abruptly, not to destruction, but to CO furiously accusing Dane of drinking all her orange juice. Dane panicked under her glare, while Subin chuckled softly in the background, the tension dissolving into everyday chaos. Soon after, CO and Subin shared another cheerful embrace while doing chores, leaving Dane staring as if he'd stepped into an alternate reality. He couldn't help but wonder if CO had finally stopped pretending to be one of the guys. He remembered how she used to call him bro with a mischievous grin, the memory drawing a faint laugh out of him. The narration pulled back, revealing CO's truth. She wasn't just brilliant, she was a survivor, the sole child to crawl out of the Han Yun group's horrific experiments. A tragic flashback showed the day an unstable surge of power triggered an explosion that obliterated the facility. Every other child perished in the blast. Only CO lived, battered, alone, and forced into hiding. Years passed with her in solitude, sharpening her intellect in the darkness of her hidden basement. And then, one day, a boy appeared, Kim Dane. He remembered how she had brandished a fork in trembling defiance, ready to fight him off. But instead of raising a hand against her, he offered peace. His confident smile promised not harm, but salvation. He swore to change the tragic fate he knew was waiting for her, to make sure she never became the villain history had written. Back in the present, Dane wondered aloud if she was already counted as a villain by association, but brushed the thought aside. He would guide her no matter what. CO brushed off his musings with a smirk. His focus shifted to Subin, recalling her tragic family history and surprising brilliance. Though suspicious of her at first, she wasn't even part of the original story. Her cooking had softened his stance. He admitted, reluctantly, that she might just become an essential part of their strange little group. Gathering the two together, he proudly revealed his newest creation, a spider-like tracker no bigger than a fingertip. CO raised a brow, unimpressed, and asked what it was for. Dane explained with sudden seriousness, their next target was Hak Cheol. A diagram broke down the villain's terrifying ability, infinite teleportation without strain, making him untouchable. Dane grumbled about the toll his own teleporting took, but CO snapped back, ordering him to focus. Before long, he was suited up as egoistic, ready to move. He hesitated, worried about charging in blind, but Seo cut him off. The plan was simple. Tag Hak Cheol with the tracker. She emphasized the tracker was faster than a bullet, and since Hak Cheol never walked, a direct ambush was their only chance. In the underground base, CO chugged water casually, while Subin nervously watched the screens. When Egoistic made his dramatic entrance, Subin's face lit up, her cheeks pink as she cheered for him. Even CO, normally stone-faced, stammered out an awkward cheer of support. Egoistic smirked, confidence flickering in his eyes as he raised his hand. The mission had officially begun. He teleports straight into Hak Cheol's apartment, catching the A-rank villain completely off guard. The teleporter's eyes widen, realizing his private space is no longer his own. Without hesitation, Egoistic raises both pistols and fires. Two spider-like trackers shoot forward, curving through the air with mechanical precision. But Hak Cheol reacts instantly, vanishing in a burst of red energy just before the trackers strike. Frustration flashes across Egoistic's face. "Did it land?" he demands, voice sharp with urgency. Back at the base, CO snaps for Subin to pull up the new coordinates. The moment they appear, Egoistic teleports again, diving headfirst into the chase. He materializes in the middle of a crowded street, the world around him freezing in shock. Phones are raised instantly, citizens live streaming what has now become a public spectacle. His covert mission has turned into citywide chaos. Meanwhile, in a quiet university lecture hall, Shin Haru sits calmly, her focus on the board, until her earpiece crackles. The Hero Association's urgent dispatch makes her blood run cold. The moment she hears Egoistic's name, her heart skips. She excuses herself, her civilian mask slipping as duty calls. Her friend stares after her, bewildered by the sudden exit. Within minutes, Stardust is soaring across the sky, determined to intercept her nemesis. On the ground, Seo confirms the hit. Hak Cheol stumbles into a crosswalk, clutching his arm where the tracker latched on. Egoistic smirks and teleports forward. closing in for the finish, until Seo's desperate shout cuts through the comms. A truck barrels down the road, massive and unstoppable, heading straight for the villain. Egoistic's smug grin falters, replaced by sheer horror as he realizes the collision is inevitable. But before the impact, the scene fractures into another memory. Under a bridge, Hak Cheol hangs upside down, bound and helpless before the criminals he betrayed. Their leader sneers, cigarette flame touching the rope. Hak Cheol's pleas echo into the night, unanswered. The rope burns away and he plummets, crashing into the dark waters below. Silence, then ripples. He surfaces again, glowing faintly with strange, glitching energy. His attackers stagger back in disbelief. Hak Cheol rises, eyes filled with something new, something dangerous. The power within him surges, and with a twisted smile, he strikes. The once doomed victim now crushes his captors with terrifying speed. Back in the present, a mysterious figure clings to the side of a speeding truck. Elsewhere, a shirtless Hak Cheol staggers, his body trembling, his power unstable. Across the street, Egoistic watches, red energy threads linking the two. Hak Cheol curses under his breath, realizing he has been dragged into something far bigger than himself. He teleports with a flash, appearing before Hak Cheol in the blink of an eye. Enraged, Hak Cheol lashes out, even hurling a nearby civilian in his desperation. But the teleporting stranger reappears beside her, catching her midair like a stage performer taking a bow. The crowd gasps. Hak Cheol, drained and bleeding, staggers forward. His legs give out, collapsing face first onto the pavement. His chest heaves as the world blurs. He lifts his head just enough to see the figure standing over him. Egoistic. Gun raised, he speaks clearly for all to hear. Hak Cheol's crimes, his theft, his violence, laid bare to the public. The crowd erupts in outrage, their voices a chorus demanding justice. Hak Cheol roars in fury, calling out the hypocrisy of being judged by another villain. But Egoistic only smirks, declaring they are not the same. Hak Cheol's dark future, his rise to an S-rank terror, is cut short here and now. Egoistic's eye twitched, not at the fallen villain at his feet, but at the crowd's strange reaction. Instead of gasps of fear, the plaza erupted in cheers, phones waving in the air like he'd just finished a concert. He blinked, baffled. These people are seriously celebrating this? With a resigned sigh, he tipped his hat, giving them a theatrical bow. If the world wanted a show, he'd deliver one. Gun raised dramatically, he flashed a grin sharp enough to unsettle the front row. The audience murmured nervously, unsure whether to clap or run. Then a voice pierced the air. His name. Egoistic. He looked up just in time to see Stardust descending, her landing shaking the ground with a shockwave that silenced the crowd. Egoistic's smirk faltered for just a second, a faint blush betraying his amusement at the way her serious hero mode didn't quite match the awkward girl he knew. She stepped forward, fury burning in her eyes. "What do you think you're doing?" He gestured lazily toward Hak Cheol's crumpled body. "Just cleaning up, doing what any hero should, right?" Her glare sharpened, outrage simmering as he tilted his head playfully. Or, wait, do heroes even get to eliminate villains without a trial? His taunt stung, and for a heartbeat, the crowd wavered, unsure who was in the right. When she demanded to know if he considered himself a hero, Egoistic saw the perfect opportunity. With a mocking flourish, he praised her sense of justice, even admitting his own actions broke the rules. Stardust braced herself for the applause, yet whispers spread instead. People questioned why she'd arrived so late. Others praised Egoistic's efficiency. The reaction knocked him off balance. Wait, no, that's not how the script goes. He quickly recovered, puffing out his chest. "Remember, I'm the villain here. Catch me if you can, Stardust." With one last flamboyant bow, he vanished in a swirl of violet energy, leaving her fuming. Silence fell over the plaza. Stardust stood guard, grim as the reality of Hak Cheol's end sank in. For the public, the scene was proof Egoistic had stolen the spotlight. For her, it was another reminder of the burden she carried. Far away, Egoistic's feet hit the ground, only to give out beneath him. His body crumpled until two companions rushed over, frantically hauling him by the arms. Their struggle to drag their dazed boss out of sight would have looked almost comical if not for the situation. Online, chaos erupted. Forums lit up with clips, praising Egoistic's record and dissecting his every move. Some even called him a better hero than Stardust. His companion proudly showed him the trending posts, but Egoistic's face darkened. He hadn't wanted this. He wanted Stardust lifted up, not torn down. She tried to cheer him, revealing he now had an official fan club called the Mango Troop. His horrified reaction said it all. But as the weight of the comment sank in, his frown gave way to a grin. If the world wanted him as the villain, then he'd play the part louder than ever. With sparks of purple energy swirling around him, Egoistic announced his next grand terror attack. His companions gawked. His grin only widened. Shinharu sat by the window of a cozy coffee shop, sipping a mango drink as cherry blossoms drifted outside. For a brief moment, the world felt calm, but the peace didn't last. Nearby customers began muttering about Stardust's latest performance. Their words cut sharp, mocking her late arrival and insisting she was never strong enough to beat the teleporter. Haru's hand trembled before she slapped her own cheeks lightly, forcing herself to stay present. Just then, her friend Kim Chae-eun leaned forward with a warm smile, reminding her to relax and enjoy the day. Haru managed a faint smile and nodded, letting her gaze wander to the blossoms again. Then came the blow. Chae-eun showed her phone, proudly announcing the existence of Egoistic's fan club, the Mango Troupe. Haru's face darkened instantly, horrified that even her best friend had been swept up in the villain's charm. Before she could argue, Chae-eun gasped. Egoistic had just gone live. At the same moment, Haru's phone buzzed with an urgent Hero Association alert. The color drained from her face. She stood abruptly, chair scraping back, and muttered to her confused friend that she had to leave. With a fierce determination burning in her eyes, she rushed out of the cafe ready to face him. Far away, atop a desolate cliff, Egoistic's broadcast flickered into life. The live chat erupted like fireworks, fans flooding the screen with adoration. He grinned at their praise, acknowledging the Mango Troupe before tossing his phone aside. His voice hardened. "Don't forget, I am and always will be a villain." The camera pulled back, revealing his grand stage, several hostages bound to train tracks. With theatrical flair, he explained the rules of his deadly game. A train thundered toward the helpless victims, and the choice was cruelly simple: sacrifice one to save five, or let five perish. Any interference would derail the train, dooming its passengers. Stardust arrived in a quake of force, her landing cracking the ground beneath her feet. Her eyes darted between the tracks, the hostages, and the terrified passengers inside the train. She clenched her fists. No matter what he said, she would find a third way. Egoistic smirked from above, relishing her struggle. The chat buzzed with debates, most convinced she'd have to pull the lever, but he knew better. Stardust wasn't cold enough to make that choice. He leaned forward eagerly, waiting. And then, she charged straight at the train. The villain's smirk collapsed into pure panic. What is she doing? Stardust slammed into the steel engine, her body straining against the overwhelming force. Sparks flew, her teeth clenched, and every muscle burned as she fought to slow it down. Then the impossible happened. The train sped up. Egoistic froze, his composure shattering. He spotted the problem instantly. Subin, his accomplice, had fainted face first onto the controls, accidentally accelerating the train. His careful plan, his orchestrated test, was unraveling before his eyes. He pictured the absolute worst outcome, his carefully staged drama turning into a real disaster. Not only would it destroy his reputation, but it could also push his chosen hero down a path she was never meant to walk. Meanwhile, completely unaware of the behind-the-scenes chaos, Stardust let out a desperate roar. With every ounce of strength, she slammed her power into the earth, cracking the ground beneath her to stop the train's deadly charge. From above, Egoistic watched, half pleading with fate, hoping his plan didn't end in tragedy. The train fought back, grinding forward, glowing from the sheer force of the struggle. Then, in a storm of dust and screeching metal, it stopped, mere inches from the hostages. Relief hit him like a tidal wave. A grin stretched across his face. Too wide, too real, before he remembered he was supposed to be the villain here. He fixed his composure quickly, though his heart was still racing. The live feed flickered. For a tense moment, her silhouette wavered in the dust. His chest tightened. But then, there she stood. Stardust, exhausted, battered, yet unshaken. The world tilted. Her knees buckled, and she collapsed on the ground, unconscious, but victorious. High above, Egoistic's smirk faltered. His plan had gone completely off script, yet instead of anger, he found himself leaning forward with something close to admiration. With a flash of purple light, he appeared at her side. Haru's eyes fluttered open just long enough to whisper his name before fading again. For a moment, the so-called villain simply studied her, exhausted, fragile, but undeniably strong. Then, in a strangely gentle gesture, he placed a hand over her eyes and told her to rest. Before leaving, he even gave her a light pat on the head, an oddly tender moment that no one watching expected. The broadcast ended with his calm farewell, though his audience buzzed with excitement, unsure what to make of what they had just witnessed. Back at their hideout, the atmosphere couldn't have been more different. His white-haired companion bustled about, practically dragging the others awake. She scolded them for looking so drained after just one mission, before proudly setting down a steaming breakfast of noodles and eggs. Egoistic and his fellow accomplice blinked in surprise, then broke into laughter at her unexpected cooking skills. He reached out with a rare smile to thank her, only to be rewarded with a playful pinch to the side. Still, the scolding ended with the entire trio sitting down, slurping noodles like a strangely ordinary group of friends after a long night's work. That illusion of normalcy didn't last long. With a spark in her eyes, the white-haired girl grabbed the remote, eager to see how the news was covering their great success. Egoistic leaned back, already smug. He was certain the world now saw him as the ultimate villain, and Stardust as the undeniable hero. Instead, the headline nearly made him choke. The news anchor, voice full of dramatic weight, announced that Stardust and Egoistic might be secretly dating. The evidence? A single photo of him kneeling beside her, gently touching her head. Analysts replayed the moment again and again, calling it undeniable proof of a hidden romance. Even one of his past cryptic messages was reinterpreted as a love note. Somewhere across the city, Haru mirrored his fury, slamming her phone on the desk as she screamed in disbelief. Both of them shouted the same thing in different places. "This is not what's happening!" Yet, even as Haru ranted about how absurd it all was, she felt a strange twinge she couldn't quite name. Shaking it off, she was interrupted by her cheerful friend, who insisted she needed a break. Dragging her along with promises of sweet treats, she declared their next stop would be an ice cream festival. Meanwhile, back at the villain's base, the white-haired girl was already bouncing on the couch, demanding they go out too. With a sigh, Egoistic gave in, declaring the entire team would join her for the outing. His companion lit up with unrestrained joy, hugging the flyer tightly. Looking at the bright smile on her face, Egoistic muttered with a wry grin, what could possibly go wrong? The festival was alive with laughter, bright banners, and the smell of sweet treats drifting through the air. Egoistic and his crew blended into the bustling crowd, or at least they tried to. His white-haired companion immediately poked fun at his predictable all-black outfit, her laughter ringing louder than the music. For a moment, her carefree smile caught him off guard, the kind of smile that felt strangely familiar. Before he could respond, her attention shifted to a rice-flavored ice cream stand. She darted off with childlike excitement, leaving him and Subin behind. Subin chuckled softly, remarking how much this outing had lifted her friend's spirits. Egoistic eventually tried the ice cream himself, pleasantly surprised by the taste. Offering Subin a spoonful seemed natural, yet the simple gesture left her blushing furiously. With a little teasing push from the white-haired girl, Subin finally leaned in for a shy taste, her heart racing far faster than she'd like to admit. Just as things settled, their lively companion spotted another stall, this time selling mango ice cream. She pressed her face against the glass with sparkling eyes before ordering with unrestrained glee. The vendor, cheerful and chatty, mistook the trio for a young family, leaving Egoistic bewildered and Subin flustered. The scene only grew more ridiculous when the vendor revealed himself as a proud member of the Mango Troupe, flashing a custom shirt in honor of the villain himself. Egoistic could only sigh, utterly drained by his unwanted celebrity status. Later, he stumbled upon a balloon dart game. With a confident smirk, he bragged about his unmatched dart-throwing skills, already planning to cheat with his powers. His companion, however, saw right through him, eyeing him suspiciously. The grand prize was a 10-scoop ice cream tower, but she immediately set her sights on the giant teddy bear instead. With dramatic flair, Egoistic promised he'd win it for her. But just as he prepared to throw, the crowd shifted. Kim Chae-eun. She tugged Haru closer, pointing at the booth. Egoistic froze, sweat beating at his temple. In the most humiliating twist, Haru confidently cut in front of him, pushing his entire crew aside with a grin that radiated competitive fire. On the other side of the festival, Haru had already softened slightly, thanks to Chae-eun feeding her a spoonful of rice ice cream. The unexpected sweetness managed to ease her mood, at least for a moment. When they later stopped at the mango stand, Haru's eyes gleamed at her favorite flavor, only to immediately darken at the sight of a vendor wearing a mango troop apron. Forcing a smile for her friend, she ate quietly, choosing not to ruin their peaceful afternoon beneath the blooming cherry blossoms. That peace didn't last long. Chae-yoon, oblivious, pointed out the dart game, dragging Haru toward it with renewed excitement. Haru's competitive spirit flared as she spotted the prize, and so, at the same booth, hero and villain stood side by side, the air thick with tension. Snap back to the present. Haru's focus sharpens like a drawn blade. She launches the dart with a power that makes the whole booth tremble. The first balloon detonates in a white flash, then another, each throw trailing a golden streak across the festival sky. Egoistic watches, jaw slack. He's known Stardust's cataloged powers, strength and flight, but this is on another level. The dart in her hand seems to hum with energy, a clear sign she can push her strength far beyond the ordinary when it matters. A cold knot of panic tightens in him as another thought lands. Her developing sixth sense might be able to sniff out his true identity right now. He pictures a future in which she exposes them all, and the thought makes him dizzy. Haru finishes with a perfect set. Chae-yoon squeals, the vendor crowns them with the ridiculous 10-scoop cone, and Haru shrugs it off like it was nothing. Egoistic, snapped out of his daze, steps up. Flustered, he vows not to use his powers and throws, only to land an impossible perfect volley of pops. His companions stare. Even he can't help thinking the blonde rival's skill rivals his own. The vendor hands over the giant teddy bear promised to Egoistic's companion. As the group edges away, a flubbed delivery sends a massive ice cream cone sailing through the air. Egoistic dives in a comically graceful arc to stop it, narrowly avoiding disaster. Cheeks and nerves aflutter, he brushes it off with a forced grin. Then the festival's calm shatters. Dust and debris explode outward as a massive, fanged reptilian figure bursts into view. The A-class villain Crocman, roaring a demand for Stardust to face him. Panic sweeps the crowd. Egoistic gathers his team into a tight huddle, assessing the threat. The timing is wrong. This is happening far too early. Haru bolts toward the danger, instincts overriding every other thought as her friend calls after her. Egoistic's mind races to darker timelines, where Stardust's identity is revealed and her life turns to ruin. His jaw hardens. Protecting her secret has become a mission unto itself. With a burst of purple energy, he teleports the trio away from the open festival, reappearing moments later in full villain regalia. "Grab the gear," he orders, voice calm but tense, and signals his white-haired partner to ready a live broadcast. Plan B is already forming. On the plaza, the reptilian villain thunders threats to level everything if Stardust won't answer. Then, like a ringmaster stepping into his spotlight, a cheerful, amplified voice ripples across the grounds. Egoistic appears atop a nearby building, grin wide and theatrical, claiming the stage as his territory. He lifts a microphone with a chillingly playful calm and tells the rampaging Croc, "You're finished." 3 years earlier, inside a towering city building, recruits sat in silence as the speaker unveiled a sleek, high-tech device, the perception-altering filter. It scrambled facial recognition, shielding heroes from public exposure. The lecturer's voice turned grave. "This filter won't protect you from anyone who already knows your real face. Once your identity is revealed, your career, and maybe even your life, is over." Among the audience, a young woman sat straighter, her determination hardening. She carried that warning with her. Back in the present day, chaos shook the city streets. Sirens wailed, debris flew, and civilians screamed for help. Without her filter, the hero froze. If she fought now, her identity might be revealed. But then, the question hit her. Did I become a hero just to run away? Her fists tightened. She turned to face the danger, just as a bystander blurted out her real name. The tension shattered when a phone nearby blared a live broadcast. Egoistic had arrived. Perched above the reptilian menace, microphone in hand, the infamous villain delivered a chilling threat with a twisted grin. Yet behind his words, his thoughts betrayed a different motive. He had no intention of letting Stardust's identity slip. Not now, not ever. He berated the crocodile-like villain, mocking it for interfering with a hero's life. The creature snapped back, accusing him of being romantically tied to Stardust. Egoistic's denial was instant, but before he could say more, the reptilian beast slammed his fist into the building with devastating force. Claws dig into concrete as it begins its ascent. Purple ribbons of energy snapped tight, binding its limbs, followed by a sharp kick that drove its head into the pavement. Egoistic stood over it, cool and mocking, revealing his teleportation ability with theatrical flair. He pressed for answers. Why attack him? The villain spat out twisted logic. They were enemies because of their shared interest in Stardust. Egoistic stared, baffled as the beast raved about a supposed declaration of war. He waved it off, clearly frustrated, but the reptilian villain wasn't done. It erupted with rage, energy surging through its body, and in one terrifying instant, a colossal beam of fire exploded from its jaws. Egoistic barely escaped, teleporting at the last second. A chill ran down his spine. He'd been a heartbeat away from annihilation. The villain gloated, thinking Egoistic cornered. But with a glare of fury, Egoistic summoned an arsenal of high-tech weaponry. Missiles rained down in a fiery storm, engulfing the monster in smoke and flame. When the dust cleared, the beast stood unscathed, laughing at the display. Then, with a sly move, Egoistic tossed his phone and a small glowing device into the air. The reptilian roared, only to swallow the trap whole. A blinding internal explosion tore through it, the shockwave collapsing its body from the inside. As smoke curled across the battlefield, the crowd erupted, chanting his name. Firearms and gadgets, remnants of his summoned arsenal, clattered down around him. Egoistic landed lightly, purple energy fading from his feet. He was drained, too weak to even lift his phone. A comment flashed across his live stream. Why did you save everyone? Are you turning heroic? His eyes widened. Then he scrambled to save face. Don't get it twisted, he muttered, insisting it was just personal dislike. Before he could explain further, a brilliant pillar of golden light slammed into the ground. From the crater rose Stardust herself, radiant and fierce. She demanded answers. Had he defeated the reptilian villain? Egoistic admitted it casually, brushing it off with a wave. It was in my way, and honestly, its annoying rumors about me were worse than the fight. Stardust stared, speechless at his logic. Then, leaning closer, his tone shifted. He offered her a piece of serious advice. Never reveal your face. It'll ruin your life. With that, he cut the stream, tossing out one final tease for his viewers. Big event next month. Don't miss it. As the purple light swirls around him, Egoistic vanishes in an instant. Stardust reaches out, her voice tight with urgency, but he's already gone. A single bead of sweat trails down her face as she replays his strange warning in her mind. Far from the battlefield, Egoistic stumbles. The toll of the fight finally catches up with him. His breaths grow shallow, his body giving out as he collapses. Two women rush to his side, calling out his true name in panic. Meanwhile, Stardust holds his discarded mask, lost in thought. How could he have known her secret? Something she's never shared with anyone. That night, she sits at her desk, news reports flashing on her screen. To her disbelief, headlines praise Egoistic's actions, some even questioning if he's more hero than villain. Fan forums are buzzing with excitement, celebrating the very man she's sworn to fight. She sighs, dragging her hand through her hair, irritated by a silly animation mocking her frustration. Collapsing onto her bed, she faces a troubling thought. What if she's been wrong about him all along? In a high-tech facility, Egoistic lies unconscious. His white-haired companion fumes, blaming Stardust for pushing him too far. But then, a faint smirk. His eyes open. He's been awake, quietly listening. With casual confidence, he teases them for worrying. Relief floods the room as the white-haired woman clings to him, unable to hide her tears. Later, over a meal, the mood shifts. He learns he's been out for 3 days. Between bites, his companion scolds him for his recklessness. He hides a smirk, secretly amused by her concern. But then, a sharper question cuts through the warmth. Why did he intervene at all? His explanation is simple. He acted before Stardust could be forced to reveal herself. He warns them that once a hero's identity is exposed, their life becomes a constant target. His words carry weight, but not everyone at the table is convinced, suggesting he's secretly fond of Stardust. Flustered, Egoistic insists she be spoken of with respect. That only deepens his companion's jealous silence until the conversation is rescued by a new idea: vacation. A beach trip, to be exact. The mood brightens instantly. Egoistic even agrees, but with one condition. They'll carry out one more villainous act first. A mischievous gleam sparks in his eyes as he sketches out a bold new plan. His companion, practically glowing with excitement, begins scribbling suggestions on a board. She insists it's time they take their schemes to the sea, or even the sky. Then, inspiration strikes. Egoistic grabs her hands, his eyes alight. He sees it clearly now, the perfect plan. A passenger plane plummeting into the ocean below. The trio erupts into laughter, their audacious vision shared in the glow of their twisted camaraderie. A commercial airliner glides peacefully across the sky, its passengers enjoying the calm of their journey. But the mood changes in an instant. Every screen in the cabin flickers on, interrupting the peace. Egoistic's symbol fills the displays. His voice follows, smooth yet unsettling, as he greets the passengers and welcomes them to what he calls a quiz show, 25,000 feet above the ground. Confusion ripples through the cabin. A frightened passenger demands answers from a flight attendant, but none come. Egoistic then reveals a chilling truth. This isn't just a game. He shows that the plane itself is part of his scheme. The pilot in the cockpit freezes, his face pale, struggling to process what he's seeing. Chaos erupts in the cabin as fear spreads. From his hidden lair, Egoistic smirks. The game has officially begun. Elsewhere, Stardust storms into a briefing room, demanding updates. A high-ranking official meets her anger with a calm, almost dismissive tone, warning that it may already be too late. She slams her fist against the table, refusing to accept defeat. The chairman swivels in his chair, clarifying he never said she couldn't try. The door opens. A new figure enters, a tall man with silver hair and a calm presence. Stardust's face lights up with recognition. He's revealed to be Shadow Walker, an A-rank hero. The official lays out the mission: reach the airport and prepare. Shadow Walker reassures Stardust not to push herself, resting a steady hand on her shoulder before heading out. Energy swirls around him, blue and black, powerful and raw. But as he steps through a doorway, sunlight strikes his body, and pain ripples across his face. Stardust rushes forward with renewed determination, striking a confident pose. Then her expression shatters into horror as a deafening blast tears through the sky. The scene cuts away, back in time, years earlier, under a moonlit sky. In a warehouse, a group of villains listens intently to their leader, the notorious S-rank villain Thousand Needle, as he boasts of his plan to rule Korea, until a calm voice interrupts. From the shadows, a young man with silver hair steps forward. Shadow Walker, at first glance a rookie hero. The villain laughs, mocking his audacity, and unleashes a devastating strike that shatters the ground. Dust fills the air, but Shadow Walker stands untouched, his energy shield deflecting the attack as if it were nothing. Then, silence. The hero vanishes. Shadows spread across the room, snaring one henchman after another. Panic breaks out as they're dragged into darkness, swallowed whole by his power. Thousand Needle realizes too late that he's underestimated his opponent. Shadow Walker emerges behind him, delivering a fierce strike. The villain counters with wild fury, but his laughter falters when a monstrous shadow beast manifests before him, eyes glowing red, towering above. The memory fades. Back in the present, the same hero struggles in daylight, weakened, clutching his side in pain. From his control room, Egoistic watches with satisfaction. His voice echoes across the cabin of the plane, announcing the start of his twisted quiz show. Passengers tremble, glued to their seats as his face dominates every screen. 30 minutes earlier, he had explained the rules with eerie calm. Phones on, airplane mode off. A man checks his device, his hands shaking. A text message waits for him. Answer 10 questions correctly, it reads, and this flight will be safe. Fail and face the consequences. The first question flashes on the passengers' phones. A simple piece of trivia about the Titanic's lifeboats. A 1-minute timer starts, and instantly the cabin feels like a pressure cooker. One woman cracks under the stress, sneaking a glance at her neighbor's screen. The villain, Egoistic, catches it right away. With a smug grin, he eliminates her, and just to drive the point home, the man sitting next to her as well. As the timer runs out, Egoistic gleefully reveals the answer. A bad pun that makes even his partner roll her eyes. On the plane's main screen, a seating chart lights up with red X's, showing just how many passengers have already failed. Focus, he warns, as the next round begins with an even shorter time limit. Panic sets in. One woman hammers at her screen, whispering prayers as the seconds vanish. By the end, the results are brutal. Only a single passenger survives. From his lair, Egoistic watches with amusement. But his attention shifts to his real target, Stardust, the hero. She's finally arrived. On board, the lone survivor, Kim Deok-bae, buckles under the pressure. His desperate outburst breaks the rule of silence, and his neighbors recoil in fear. Begging for mercy, he tries to laugh it off, but Egoistic coldly marks him for elimination. The cabin shakes violently. An explosion rips through the airliner, sending it plunging toward the earth. From his lair, Egoistic smirks, declaring the stage set for Stardust's grand entrance. On the ground, Stardust watches in horror. Her name is called over the comms, but her face twists in disbelief as the plane burns through the sky. When she asks the chairman what to do, he coldly replies he's already preparing a statement. The line cuts, leaving her crushed in silence. Kneeling on the pavement, she remembers her parents' loss and the little girl she once was, alone in the rain. The pain twists into fury. She slams her fist into the ground, tears streaming, the weight of failure suffocating her. Then, a crackle of static breaks through her earpiece. Egoistic's voice cuts in. In his lair, he lounges like a cat with cream until his partner notices something strange. The hero isn't moving. Egoistic suddenly panics, demanding to know why. On the ground, Stardust listens as his mocking tone teases her inaction. "You're the only one who can stop it," he says. She snaps back, calling him the cause of all this, but he calmly counters, "Who else but her can save them?" His words pierce through her despair. He admits the truth. Without her, his role as a villain is meaningless. She completes him. That twisted declaration finally reignites her spirit. Stardust rips the earpiece from her ear, crushing it to cut off the chairman's negativity. With a roar of energy, she rockets into the sky, golden light blazing behind her. She soars toward the burning plane. For the first time since this nightmare began, Stardust isn't hesitating. She's ready to rise. Choosing not to hesitate, Stardust unleashes a blinding torrent of golden energy. Inside the burning plane, the final passenger sinks into despair, blaming himself for everyone's fate. A vision of his happy family flashes in his mind, his hand reaching out for the life slipping away. With grief in his eyes, he weeps, waiting for the end. A woman screams in terror. A young girl looks out the window, and her tears freeze in confusion. The plane isn't falling as fast anymore. On the ground, emergency crews and reporters stare upward in disbelief. The pilot announces what no one can explain. An unseen force is guiding the plane to safety. Outside, Stardust glows like a living beacon, gritting her teeth as she pushes her strength past its limits to stop the impossible. A flight attendant rushes to the lone survivor, Kim Bai, helping him stagger out onto the tarmac. Dazed, he looks around in shock at the miracle he's part of. The rescued passengers murmur in awe, their eyes fixed on the hero kneeling before them. Tears run down Kim Bai's face as he realizes a true hero protected them. Stardust herself gasps for breath, drained to the core, her tears mixing with sweat and exhaustion. Deep inside, she knows the one who forced her to reach this power was egoistic. News spreads like wildfire. Anchors announce the airborne attack and the impossible save. The world now knows Stardust's name. Back in her apartment, she slumps on the couch, sipping a drink as the broadcast plays. For a moment, she allows herself to breathe, until her phone rings. The caller, a cheerful blue-haired woman, surprises her with good news. She's arranged a seaside vacation. Stardust can't hide her smile as she agrees. Later, on her balcony, her mind drifts back to the villain's strange encouragement. Why did he set this up, only to push her forward? His words, "You complete me," linger, frustrating her. She resolves to dig deeper into his past. Her thoughts are cut short by a call from the Hero Association, requesting a new measurement of her stats. Meanwhile, Egoistic's lair feels more like a road trip comedy. His white-haired companion celebrates their upcoming beach getaway, stuffing luggage into the car. The mood sours quickly as they hit a traffic jam, and the air conditioner dies. Sweating through his shirt, Egoistic fends off her suggestion to teleport the car. Lethal idea next, she grumbles they should have taken the train. When she rummages through the bags, expecting sunscreen, she instead finds a locked case with a firearm inside. Egoistic nervously grins, calling it just vacation precautions. She's had enough, pointing the weapon at him as he waves his hands, sweating bullets more than the heat. Eventually, they arrive. His white-haired companion races toward the sparkling sea with childlike joy. Egoistic sinks into a chair with a cold soda, Subin offering another with a shy smile. As they sit together, an awkward silence falls. He finally thanks her, praising her kindness, her cooking, and her constant support. She blushes, touched. He feels the atmosphere shift, maybe even romantic. Then paranoia kicks in. He eyes the soda can suspiciously, wondering if it's been rigged. Elsewhere, the Hero Association stares at Stardust's new test results. Her previous data wasn't wrong. It's just been shattered. She steps into the chamber. The vortex of light nearly blinds the officials, proving her strength has awakened to an entirely new level. When the glow fades, Stardust stands tall, her clenched fist glowing with unstoppable power. The scene shifts to the seaside. Seo watches from the sand, glaring at Egoistic as he fumbles through a compliment towards Subin. Her cheeks turn red and Seo can't take it anymore. "Oi, you two look way too cozy over there," she snaps, arms crossed. Subin freezes in shock, face burning brighter. Seo stomps her foot. "We came here for a trip. Shouldn't we all be playing together?" Egoistic's face darkens. Seo tilts her head, confused. Then suddenly he lunges forward, grabs her, and with a wicked grin, tosses her straight into the sea. She resurfaces, sputtering and coughing. "You got water up my nose!" she yells, but Egoistic just smirks, thinking to himself, "This kind of peace feels good." Then, without warning, he dives in too, splashing Seo with childish fury. Far from the laughter of the beach, a convoy of trucks rolls down the road. Inside one, a bald man grins wickedly. "Tonight, we'll bomb the hotel," he declares, his men cheering. "Let's make it big." The scene shifts back to the hotel lobby. Our trio checks in, tired from the sun. The receptionist hands over a single key. "Here you go, sir." Egoistic blinks. One room, his face darkens, turning slowly towards Seo, who shrugs like it's nothing. "I just wanted to save money," she says casually. By the time they reach the door, she adds with a mischievous smile, "Oh, right, just one bed." Egoistic freezes. "One bed?" His forehead beads with sweat. He glances at Subin, hoping for a reaction, but she doesn't mind. That somehow makes him sweat more. "Nothing's gonna happen, right?" And with a chuckle, the narrator cuts in, "Of course, nothing happened. What were you expecting, readers?" Night falls. The room is quiet until faint whispers slip through the door. 1, 2, 3.
FBI, open up!
Egoistic barely stirs. Half awake, he lifts a finger, and with a casual flick, the intruders collapse unconscious. He rubs his eyes, mumbling, "What now?" He peers outside. The bald man's group is attacking the hotel. "Seriously? They ruined my vacation," he growls. He recalls that usually no one dares attack at night because of Shadow Walker, but then remembers he had been passed out earlier thanks to the sunlight. Seo, stretching lazily, yawns. "Oh, a terrorist attack," Egoistic mutters under his breath, not even surprised anymore. He teleports straight to the parking lot, nudging Subin awake as he goes. At his car, he scans the scene. Dozens of armed men, cutting off every exit. His lips curl into a smirk as he pulls out a mask. Back inside, he hands comms to his team, then walks down the hall, calm and ready. In the ballroom, the bald villain, Monkey Spanner, sits high atop a pile of chairs. A self-made throne. Hostages cower below as cameras roll. "Send the money or they're finished," he bellows, flashing his account number with arrogant pride. A slow clap breaks the silence. Every head turns. From the shadows, a figure in an orange mask steps forward. Egoistic. With one sharp gesture, every gun in the room lifts into the air, spinning around to point back at its owner. Gasps fill the hall, but suddenly, Egoistic's body twitches, his powers faltering for a moment. Monkey Spanner reacts instantly. He leaps from his throne, spinning into a crushing dropkick. Egoistic vanishes in a blink, reappearing casually on the villain's stolen throne. "Pathetic," he sneers. "You call this rabble a terrorist attack?" Monkey Spanner growls, pulling out a pistol. He raises it without hesitation. Bang! The bullet slams into Egoistic's stomach. Egoistic let out a low laugh. "Just a single bullet, huh? Is that all you've got?" His voice was cold, but beneath the mask, sweat trickled down his face. Inside, he was panicking. "This is bad. If I move too much, I'll bleed out before I can even teleport." Monkey Spanner's legs began to tremble. His instincts screamed at him to run. "I planned to strike fast and escape while Shadow Walker wasn't around. But this guy, he must be Egoistic. No way. Was I his target all along? Was he waiting for me?" Egoistic smirked, tilting his head. "You look tense. Wanna run?" Monkey Spanner clenched his fists, trying to hide his fear. "What trickery is this?" Egoistic gave a sharp laugh, his tone dripping with mockery. "Trickery? Don't flatter yourself. You just ruined my vacation. Leave now while I'm letting you. Don't make this harder on yourself." But inside, his body was trembling. "Please, just think I'm bluffing and run away. I can barely keep my eyes open." Monkey Spanner gulped, eyes darting. "As long as I stay alive, I can rise up again," he told himself. Then, in the blink of an eye, he bolted, faster than a flash, desperate to survive. His thoughts echoed, "Someday, I'll be king of this country. I can't die here." But his ambition was cut short. A glowing fist broke through the hotel entrance, smashing into him with devastating force. Monkey Spanner was sent flying, crashing into the wall with a thunderous impact. Standing in the rubble was Stardust, her fist still glowing. She tightened it with a glare. Game over. Just surrender. She looked around and saw every one of Monkey Spanner's gang already sprawled unconscious on the ground. Her eyes narrowed in annoyance. Huh? All taken out already? From the shadows, another figure appeared, cloaked in darkness. Shadow Walker. He clicked his tongue. Persistent as always. I barely put out one fake article, and they're already back with another attack. Then his eyes caught sight of the masked figure standing nearby. He frowned. Wait, who's that? Egoistic froze, speechless. Why are you here? He thought in panic. Stardust stepped closer, suspicion clear in her voice. Who are you? Did you subdue these terrorists? Blood seeped from Egoistic's wound. His vision blurred. If I lose focus now, I'm done for. Thankfully, they haven't recognized me yet. I just need time to recover, time to teleport out. With a forced grin, he answered, Oh, you asked who I am? I'm a secretly operating S-rank hero, hiding my identity in Korea. The three heroes blinked at him like he'd lost his mind. Stardust snapped, her voice sharp. There's no data about any S-rank hero in this country. What nonsense are you spouting? Tell us who you really are. Egoistic chuckled. You, an A-rank hero, don't know the meaning of keeping things secret? I've been active since the generation before yours. A-rank Stardust, A-rank Icicle, A-rank Shadow Walker. You should respect your senior. Seo and Subin, watching from the sidelines, were sweating buckets. What is he even doing? They thought. Egoistic leaned forward, mocking. When you meet a senior, you should greet them first, you disrespectful juniors. The trio stared speechless, suspicion still in their eyes. He wiped sweat from his brow, his tone shifting. You don't believe me? Then I'll introduce myself properly. I am the hero. His eyes darted, and he spotted a kid in the crowd wearing a mango logo on his t-shirt. Without hesitation, he declared, I am Apple Mango! The entire crowd fell silent. People exchanged confused looks, some even grimacing. Apple Mango? That's really the name? Icicle quickly checked her communicator. There's no record of a hero by that name. Who are you really? She demanded. Egoistic snapped back dramatically. Such rude juniors. I even know your president's real name, Park Man-shun. He only changed it later because it sounded old-fashioned. Go confirm it yourselves. The heroes froze, stunned. That detail was true. Egoistic smirked. Who would have thought a random detail from a comic would save me now? But Icicle still narrowed her eyes. The president says he doesn't know you. Before tension could rise further, a man from the crowd shouted, Why does that matter? He saved us. That's enough. Egoistic's heart leapt. That's my boy. Keep talking. But the man added innocently, though, lifting guns into the air like that? It's just like that egoistic guy from TV. Egoistic's stomach dropped. Stardust's suspicion deepened. The man gave him a thumbs up. Is that okay? Inside, Egoistic was cursing. Icicle sighed. Doesn't he seem way too suspicious? Egoistic thought, just a little longer. Just hold on. But Icicle raised her hand, cold mist forming. Let's capture him first, then we'll see who he really is. Stardust's aura flared as she readied herself. With a sharp cry, Icicle launched a freezing blast, locking one of Egoistic's legs in ice. Egoistic started counting down in his head. 3. Shadow Walker moved silently from behind. 2. Clutching his wound, Egoistic prayed, Please, just move. Stardust lunged forward at supersonic speed. 1. Egoistic screamed inside his head, his body refusing to move. In a flash, Egoistic vanished. Stardust's attack hit nothing but air. And then, he reappeared beside Subin and Seo, covering their faces with his hands, before teleporting them away. They rematerialized inside their car. Seo's head spun from the sudden jump. Her voice trembled. Appa, are you okay? Clutching his wound, Egoistic gritted his teeth. Ugh, Seo, delete every record of us right now. Hotel guest lists, CCTV, everything. If we don't, His body shuddered mid-sentence. Seo panicked. Appa, what's wrong? His grip tightened on the bleeding wound. I don't have the strength to teleport again. If they catch us now… Subin's eyes hardened. She slammed her hands on the steering wheel. SEO, give him emergency treatment, anything you can, and hold tight. Seo's mind blanked, tears welling in her eyes. I can't think straight. Hurry! Subin barked. Sniffling, Seo nodded and scrambled for the first aid kit. Meanwhile, Subin floored the accelerator. The car roared down the highway, leaving the chaos of the hotel behind. Back inside, rescuers rushed hostages to safety. Icicle exhaled, rubbing her temples. Really? Our first vacation in ages, and villains still can't take a single day off. Shadow Walker yawned. I'm going to sleep. Startled, Icicle waved her hands. Ah, right. Sorry for calling you. Go rest. Turning to Stardust, she muttered, Although, you probably would have shown up anyway. But Stardust wasn't listening. Her mind was elsewhere. The scene shifted to a quiet stretch of highway. A tired driver yawned, his eyes half shut, until a blur shot past his rearview mirror. Subin's car whooshed by like a bullet train. Inside, Subin's face was set in stone. She wasn't going to let Egoistic die tonight. Beside her, Seo worked frantically, hands shaking as she tried to stabilize him. And Egoistic, drenched in sweat, fought to stay conscious. Later, at her home, Stardust sat at her desk, scrolling through case files. Her thoughts replayed the airplane incident. No casualties, but what if Egoistic hadn't called me? What if I hadn't stepped in? She remembered his words. You can do it because that's who you are. Her fists clenched. He was certain I could succeed, as if he knew in advance. She shook her head. Coincidence? It has to be. But deep down, she knew. The fact is, I got stronger because of him. Her eyes narrowed on a report an old villain Egoistic had eliminated. Someone who could have caused disaster. That night in the hotel, I saw what no one else could. That was him. She leaned back, conflicted. He's no hero, but calling him a simple villain feels wrong. My gut says he's building toward something. Next time, I'll uncover his identity for sure. Meanwhile, at their hideout, Seo scrolled through her phone. Headlines exploded across the screen. What is Egoistic's true purpose? Terrorism or justice? He knows the president's real name. Was he once an S-rank hero turned rogue? Seo's eyes widened. Appa, your conspiracy theory is blowing up online. Egoistic nearly choked on his food. Pfft, what? Subin quickly snatched Seo's phone. Stop it. He's under enough pressure already. But Seo pouted. What's he going to do? Launch another flashy attack, bragging about being both a hero and a villain? Count me out. Egoistic hesitated, his voice low. Both girls turned, glaring at him. He forced a weak smile. I'm going to rest for a while. Their mood shifted instantly. Really? They said together. Yeah, he nodded. If I lay low, everything will fade on its own. But deep inside, his heart grew heavy. While I rest, I need to find a new member, the only healer from Stardust's story. If I leave her unchecked, she'll one day become a villain strong enough to break the balance. 3 months later, the scene shifted to a quiet cafe. Stardust's phone buzzed against the table. A villain has appeared. Prepare to dispatch. She raised her phone, her voice tight. Is it Egoistic? The answer came back flat. No, a villain called Rock Bottom. Her shoulders sank. A soft sigh escaped her lips. A moment later, the sky itself split open with a deafening boom as she shot upward. Yet inside, her thoughts whispered bitterly, Egoistic. Where have you been these past 3 months? The view changed. Seo's house. There, Egoistic was on the couch, eyes shining like a kid seeing fireworks for the first time. He clutched a bowl of popcorn, shouting, Ah, there she is! She's here! Seo glanced at him with utter disbelief. To her, he looked less like a mastermind and more like a die-hard fanboy. On the broadcast, Rock Bottom roared, You are finally here, Stard. But his words were cut short. She seized his head with blistering speed and slammed him into the ground with a thunderous crash. Her voice trembled with anger as she cried out, Not Egoistic! Are you? The villain crumpled, knocked out cold. Egoistic jumped to his feet, unable to contain his joy. Woohoo! I knew it was the right call to make you stronger, Stardust. Seo pinched the bridge of her nose. Does that really amuse you? He froze, sweat forming at his temple. Huh? Just a little. Seo's tone sharpened. I can't watch you waste time on that Stardust fan cafe every single day. His face went pale. What are you talking about? Seo smirked. The man who runs the Stardust Brigade, Kim Dane. Did you really think you could hide that from me? I'm a hacker, remember? Egoistic laughed awkwardly, wiping sweat from his brow. Well, it's just a hobby. Anyway, we've got real work today. Her eyes lit up instantly. What is it? A terror attack? Another villain? Egoistic smiled faintly, a spark of mischief in his eyes. Neither. We're going to recruit our new member. Elsewhere, under a fading sunset, a couple enjoyed the view. A young girl stumbled into the man, bowing in apology. The man waved it off casually, unaware his wallet had slipped into her hand. She thought she had gone unnoticed, until 3 goons stood there, their eyes fixed on her. Her jaw clenched, rage burning silently in her chest. Just then, a voice broke the tension. Nuna! A boy came running, his small figure full of energy. Lee Chae-hyun. She crouched low, her eyes softening as she asked about his day. He beamed. It was good, but her gaze fell to the scrape on his leg. Oh, this? I just tripped. She lifted her hand, a gentle green glow blooming at her fingertips. Slowly, the wound closed. She pressed her hat onto his head with a tender smile. Go home first. I'll bring you something tasty. This was Lee Ha-yul. One day, the world would know her as the villain ex-saintess. That evening, Ha-yul pushed open the door to her small home, calling out with a cheerful voice, Chae-yun, I brought some tteokbokki. The words froze in her throat. Inside, men were waiting. The Reservoir Gang. Their leader stood tall over a pile of stolen purses, eyes sharp as blades. You know the deal, he said coldly. You work for us. Hide something again, and you'll regret it. Ha-yul's body trembled, her voice cracked. Please, take everything. Just let Chae-hyun go. The leader sighed, then grabbed Chae-hyun by the hair, lifting him up like he was nothing. The boy cried, his voice breaking as Ha-yul's heart shattered. Look at her, the man sneered. Forgotten her place already. He pressed a knife to the boy's neck. She needs a lesson. No, please, it's all my fault. Her cries shook the room, raw and desperate. The man only smiled darkly. Too late. His arm moved, the blade flashing downward. But the knife never touched Chae-hyun. It was yanked away by an unseen force. The leader's eyes widened in shock. Then his body was hurled across the room, crashing into a desk. Guns rose into the air, floating, turning against their owners. Panic erupted. Bang, bang. The gunfire echoed, and one by one, the gang fell like puppets with cut strings. Chae-hyun rushed to his sister, clinging tightly, tears streaming down his face. Outside the window, a figure watched in silence, egoistic. His thoughts were heavy. In the original timeline, Chae-hyun dies here. She loses everything and becomes a disaster-class villain. If I'd been even a little late. Inside, Chae-hyun's teary eyes looked toward the shadowy figure now stepping into the room. His voice trembled. Egoistic? Egoistic's lips curled into a grin, his voice smooth and chilling. A pleasure to meet you both. I've come to take you with me. Ha-yul's voice shook with anger. Why us? You're clearly a villain too. Egoistic let out a quiet sigh. You're mistaken. I'm the one who saved you. Besides, we'll be in trouble if the police show up. Her reply was sharp, her eyes burning. I'd rather die than go with you. What are you trying to… But her words froze. Chae-hyun suddenly rushed toward Egoistic, grabbing his hand with glowing eyes. I'm a proud member of the Mango Squad. The tense mood shattered in an instant, replaced by comedy. The scene shifted to Egoistic's base. He scratched the back of his neck nervously. Hey guys, meet our new members. Chae-hyun's eyes lit up again as he spotted someone new. Whoa, there's even an Ego Terror Beauty, Subin groaned, rubbing her temples. Ego Terror Beauty? Ha-yul clutched her brother nervously, quickly introducing themselves. Seo, watching from the side, gave them a cold look, her thoughts quietly bitter. So this is the so-called healer. Turns out to be another girl. Egoistic broke the tension. Chae-hyun, want some mango juice? Chae-hyun clapped his hands. Of course, mango. Seo's gaze softened slightly. He really reminds me of myself when I first met Appa. Egoistic, however, grabbed a bottle and drank straight from it. Seo's temper flared. Hey, how many times have I told you not to drink like that? Egoistic wiped his mouth, grinning. Relax, that one's mine. Yours is in the fridge. Seo huffed. Oh, then fine. Meanwhile, Subin handed Chae-hyun some fruit. He grabbed a piece with a fork, but Ha-yul's eyes widened in concern. When Chae-hyun looked at her curiously, she forced a smile. It's nothing. Soon, Egoistic cleared his throat. Seo, Subin, can you give us a moment? Seo smirked, leaning in with a teasing grin. Oh? Can you step aside? Egoistic groaned. What's wrong with you today? Once the others left, his eyes turned serious. I know you killed the orphanage director and ran. Ha-yul froze, her breath caught in her throat. But I also know he'd been hurting you. I didn't stumble upon you by chance. I had a purpose. Her voice trembled. What? Egoistic's expression softened into a warm smile. To give you a happy life. Ha-yul's eyes widened. Excuse me? He continued gently. Not here underground. At the main house. You'll live there. Go to school. Be normal. Her voice cracked. Why? Why are you doing this for us? His reply was simple, but full of quiet weight. Because I also have someone about your age. That's why. Chae-hyun suddenly burst out with pride. I watched every single one of your videos and replayed them on loop. Egoistic broke into a sweat. Is it okay to show that to an elementary kid? But he steadied himself, looking back at them. Just try it with us for a while. We're not as bad as you think. Chae-hyun beamed. That's all I needed to hear. Egoistic led them forward. A large door creaked open, revealing a glowing portal. He stepped in first. "Just follow me." Ha-yul hesitated, her heart pounding. But Chae-hyun ran ahead, smiling without fear. With a heavy sigh, she followed. On the other side, she froze. A lavish home stretched before her eyes, glowing with warmth she hadn't felt in years. Egoistic turned, arms wide. "This will be your new home. Do you like it? Don't worry about the money. I'm rich. Stay for a few days. If you want to leave after that, you can." Her body trembled. The cruel memory of Chae-hyun nearly dying at the gang's hands flashed through her mind. But now, he was safe, happy, smiling brighter than ever. Tears filled her eyes as she lowered her head. "Yes, thank you." Egoistic patted her shoulder, his smile gentle. "Don't mention it. Let's get along." But as he turned away, his lips twisted into the sly grin of a mastermind. Healer recruitment, success. Meanwhile, Stardust sat at her desk. The forums buzzed with chatter, messages piling up. Where is Egoistic? Why hasn't he appeared? Her brow furrowed in frustration. "Where are you, Egoistic?" The scene shifted to a shadowy laboratory. A man with stark white hair bent over a table, his lips curved into a chilling smile. "The Behemoth project must be complete," he whispered, voice low but heavy with promise. "Once we present it to Dr. Kim Seon-woo, South Korea will fall. The Hanun Group will rule the world." Around him, the scientists erupted into high-pitched, almost maniacal laughter. Far away, in the morning calm of Egoistic's base, Ha-yul moved with quiet focus, slicing mushrooms for breakfast. Subin hovered nearby, her worry gentle. "You can rest," she said softly. Ha-yul shook her head, insisting, "No, I can handle this." Subin's warm smile lingered, unaware that Ha-yul's mind was drifting far away. She's so strong, yet still carries the weight of everything she's endured. 4 months had passed since the chaos that had nearly destroyed their lives. And now, Ha-yul's heart swelled a little, seeing Subin, living, smiling, calm. A stark contrast to the shadows that had haunted her before. At the table, Egoistic nudged Seo, who lay sprawled and half awake, sunlight catching in her hair, a soft sigh escaping her as she blinked. Subin placed a warm breakfast in front of him. His eyes lit up instantly, reflecting the small human joy of a moment's comfort. Ha-yul's gaze lingered on her hand. "One day, I will help her with my ability," she thought. Inside his room, Egoistic stared at the calendar. Today was the day when the Hanun Group's black disaster would unfold, and the world might tremble before it. The door slammed open, startling the quiet. Seo stomped in, slamming a whiteboard, her grin wide, almost theatrical. "I'm bored. Let's cause some chaos." Egoistic's eyes darkened slightly, but a smirk tugged at his lips. "Ego Squad, assemble." They gathered around the table, tension thick. Ha-yul's brow furrowed. Why exactly are we doing this?" she asked, voice small. Egoistic opened his mouth, ready to explain when Seo snapped, "Just get to the point." Egoistic's face hardened, eyes serious. "Because we're villains." Ha-yul's stomach twisted, disbelief and worry pressing down on her chest. She glanced at Seo, who leaned in, almost gleeful. "No civilians," she said sharply, "and it has to involve Stardust. It should, somehow, benefit her too." Egoistic wiped sweat from his brow. "Thanks for the summary. But is that a slip of the tongue?" He began outlining the plan. A giant monster would appear near Seoul Bridge. Its weakness, water. If the bridge collapsed at the right moment, the splash would neutralize it. A staged terrorist attack would create chaos while achieving their true goal, eliminating the beast. 2 problems, 1 action. Seo frowned, brow furrowing. "Where did you get this info?" Egoistic only shrugged. "Secret." "Sounds promising," Seo said, voice tight, "and it doesn't seem targeted at Stardust yet." She hesitated, flustered. "Could you be more polite when mentioning her?" Egoistic's smirk returned, faint but calculated. "Perfect. Concept decided? Time?" someone asked. Egoistic shook his head, voice teasing. "Nope. Money." The day arrived. The live stream exploded with comments as Seoul Bridge filled with unsuspecting pedestrians. Egoistic stood tall, microphone in hand, his voice rolling across the water like thunder. "Greetings, everyone. Vote for the most influential villain. Your boy Egoistic is back. You know what's about to happen, right?" The comments poured in, fear, disbelief, and wild suggestions blending together. He raised his hand, booming over the bridge speakers. "Enjoy the show!" Sparks and controlled blasts erupted across the structure, each one measured but dramatic. "Playground ready," he continued, a wry tone in his voice. "Participants, the good citizens of this nation. Yep, you." He laid down the rules. Send your bank details to receive 100,000 won instantly. But if, by 7 o'clock, the total exceeded 500,000 won, the bridge could collapse, people included. Free money or the bridge? And just like that, the game has begun.